He was a broke, grieving widower just trying to survive, until one day he stumbled upon a terrified teenage girl being auctioned off by her own parents. What he did next not only saved her life, but uncovered a horrifying secret that shook an entire town. This is a story you won't forget. Please, before we start this story, support us by liking this video, subscribe to our channel, and tell us where you're watching from. Caleb Monroe was a 42-year-old widower living in a rundown farmhouse outside Jasper, Alabama. Ever since his wife passed 3 years ago, life hadn't been the same. He worked odd jobs, mechanic, produce seller, anything that kept the lights on and the roof patched. Despite his hardships, Caleb had a heart of gold and a sense of justice that burned quietly inside him. One humid Saturday, he drove his old Chevy truck into town to sell vegetables at the weekend market. But instead of the usual bustle, he noticed a strange gathering in the park behind the courthouse. Out of curiosity, Caleb parked and wandered over. There stood a middle-aged couple shouting bids. In front of them, trembling and silent, was a girl who couldn't have been more than 19. Her arms were folded tightly across her chest, and she wouldn't look anyone in the eye. Caleb's gut turned. The couple announced she was their daughter, obedient, untouched, and trained to serve. Caleb's jaw tightened. The crowd, mostly well-dressed older men, tossed out dollar amounts like they were bidding on livestock. "No one's stopping this?" Caleb muttered aloud. A woman nearby shrugged and said, "It's her parents' right. They say it's legal, private arrangement." Caleb's pulse thundered. That's when the father shouted, "Starting bid at $5,000. Who's serious about owning a real woman?" Caleb had less than $300 in his bank account, but he couldn't walk away. He stepped forward and said firmly, "I'll take her. Not to own her, but to get her the hell out of here." The crowd laughed. "You? A broke man in boots and dirt?" The girl finally looked up. Caleb met her eyes. There was fear, but also a flicker of hope. "I've got my truck. Title's clean. It's all I've got," he said, pulling the papers from his glove compartment. "Take it. Just let her go." There was silence. Then the father scoffed. "You serious? I've never been more serious in my life." And just like that, the keys to Caleb's only possession were tossed into the father's hand, and the girl was shoved toward him. "Her name's Maddie," the mother said coldly. "She's yours now. Good luck." As they walked away from the crowd, Caleb said gently, "You're not mine, Maddie. You're your own person. I'm just here to help." She didn't speak, just nodded and climbed into the passenger seat of his truck. Now technically not even his anymore. Caleb didn't know what he was going to do, but he knew one thing. Maddie was safe for now. The sun was beginning to set as Caleb Monroe and Maddie pulled up to the edge of the field where his trailer sat. It wasn't much, just a single wide with creaky steps and patchy siding, but it was clean and quiet. Caleb opened the door for her and said gently, "You can have the couch. I'll take the recliner tonight. We'll figure things out tomorrow." Maddie hesitated at the threshold, like she wasn't sure if she was walking into another kind of trap. Caleb noticed and stepped back. "You don't have to come in, but if you do, you're safe here. No one owns you. Not me, not your parents, nobody." That night she didn't eat much, just stared at the bowl of soup Caleb made, and eventually drifted to sleep, fully dressed under a throw blanket. Caleb stayed up, watching the front door in case someone came after her. By morning, the silence between them was thick. Caleb didn't press. He made pancakes and sat across the table, sipping his coffee, pretending not to notice her staring at the syrup bottle like it was a foreign object. After a long pause, she finally spoke. "My parents, they said I was a burden. They said since I turned 18, I owed them. They called it a business deal." Caleb set his mug down slowly. "That's not love, Maddie. That's abuse." She nodded slightly as if hearing it out loud helped solidify the truth. "They told me if I didn't cooperate, they'd take my little brother instead." "He's 13, she whispered, voice cracking. Caleb leaned forward, trying to stay calm. "Where is he now?" "With my uncle. He's worse than my dad. I didn't want him touched, so I agreed." There it was, the gut punch Caleb feared. Maddie hadn't just been sold. She'd sacrificed herself to protect someone else. "Do you want to call the police?" he asked. Maddie shook her head violently. "They won't believe me. My dad's got people in town. They'll say I made it up." Caleb sighed. He knew how small-town politics worked. It wasn't just about right and wrong. It was about who had power. "You can stay here as long as you need it," he said. "But if we're going to help your brother, we'll need a plan. And we'll have to be smart." Maddie looked at him, really looked at him, for the first time. "Why are you doing this? You don't even know me." Caleb smiled faintly. "Because someone should have done this for my wife. She stayed in a bad place for too long, thinking no one would help. I can't fix the past, but maybe I can do something right now." Maddie blinked back tears and nodded. "Then let's make a plan." It was the first time she'd spoken with hope, and it wouldn't be the last. Caleb's old cell phone buzzed as he ended the call to Child Protective Services. It wasn't much, just a report made on Maddie's behalf and a vague warning that the investigation process may take time. Caleb hung up, frustrated. He'd heard that line before when his sister tried reporting her ex-husband. The system moves slow, especially in towns like Jasper, where old names carried too much weight. Maddie sat at the kitchen table, nervously tapping her fingers on a napkin. "What did they say?" "They'll look into it, but don't hold your breath," Caleb said. "Your parents got friends in high places?" She nodded. "My dad works maintenance at the courthouse. He drinks with half the sheriff's deputies." Caleb rubbed his temples. "That explains a lot." Still, he wasn't giving up. He decided to try something more direct. That afternoon, he and Maddie drove to the local diner. Small-town places like that were gossip hubs, and Caleb needed ears. As they walked in, the room fell oddly quiet. Conversations paused mid-sentence. Eyes followed Maddie's every step. Whispers started up almost immediately. "Is that George Pritchard's daughter? I heard she ran off with some old farmer. Poor girl, probably seduced him for money." Maddie kept her head down. Caleb clenched his jaw. They sat in a corner booth. Darlene, the gray-haired waitress who had known Caleb since high school, approached with a hesitant smile. "Caleb, I heard you took someone in." "Yeah, this is Maddie. She's staying with me for now." Darlene raised her brows, then glanced over her shoulder. "You should be careful. Word is her folks are stirring up trouble. Claimed you kidnapped her." Maddie gasped. "What?" Caleb stayed calm. "That's a lie and they know it. They gave her to me in public in front of a dozen people." Darlene leaned in and whispered, "Those people won't say a word. They're scared. Her daddy's got connections, and nobody wants to be the one that crosses him." Maddie looked stricken. "Then who's going to help us?" Caleb thought for a moment. "Maybe nobody in town, but I know someone out of town who might. He's a retired judge, used to work family cases, lives in Montgomery now. He owes me a favor." Back at the trailer that night, Caleb called the judge, a stern but fair man named Raymond Sinclair. He told him everything: Maddie's story, the auction, her little brother, the threats. Raymond's voice was low but firm. "I want to help, but if her family files kidnapping charges, it could get messy. I'll need proof. Videos, witnesses, anything." Maddie suddenly perked up. "My mom was recording the auction. She said she'd post it on some site to attract more buyers. I think it was saved on her old laptop." Caleb nodded. "Then that's our next move. We're getting that laptop." For the first time in days, Maddie looked determined. "Let's go get it." It was just past midnight when Caleb turned off the truck headlights and coasted into the woods behind the Pritchard family property. Maddie sat beside him, clutching the straps of a backpack filled with gloves, flashlights, and an old burner phone Caleb used for emergencies. "You sure about this?" Caleb whispered. Maddie nodded. "If we want proof, it's in that laptop. It's in the sewing room closet. My mom used to hide stuff in an old shoebox." The Pritchard house sat at the edge of town, large and crumbling, but still proud-looking. The porch light was on, but the windows were dark. Caleb left the truck in the trees and led Maddie along the back fence. They crept through the vegetable garden, careful not to snap a twig. Maddie's heart pounded like a war drum. Her childhood home, once a place of laughter and warm meals, had become a prison. Every step toward it was heavy with memory. They reached the back window, her old bedroom. Caleb hoisted her up and she slid it open. Amazingly, it wasn't locked. She slipped in silently, pulling back the curtains. The room was untouched, same worn-out rug, same cracked mirror. It was like stepping into a frozen version of her younger self. Caleb followed, careful with every step. They tiptoed to the sewing room. Maddie knelt and pulled open the closet. There, beneath a heap of fabric and old towels, was the shoebox. Her hands trembled as she opened it. The laptop was there, slightly dusty, battery probably dead. Caleb whispered, "We're in and out. We'll check it later. Let's move." But as they turned to leave, a creak echoed through the hallway. Footsteps. "Oh no!" Maddie whispered, eyes wide. "That's my dad." They rushed back into her old bedroom. Caleb looked for an escape route, but a tall, angry silhouette appeared in the doorway. "Well, well," George Pritchard growled. "Thought we'd seen the last of you." He reeked of alcohol and something worse, authority unchecked. "You think you can steal from me? Take what's mine?" "She's not your," Caleb said firmly, stepping between him and Maddie. George lunged, grabbing Caleb by the collar. Caleb pushed back hard, sending George stumbling into the doorframe. Maddie, thinking fast, grabbed a photo frame from her dresser and smashed it against her father's shoulder. He roared, more shocked than hurt. Caleb grabbed Maddie's hand. "Run!" They leapt through the open window just as George reached them. Caleb hit the ground first and caught Maddie mid-jump. Together, they sprinted through the brush, hearts racing. Back at the truck, Caleb floored the gas. Maddie clutched the laptop to her chest, breathing hard. "I got it," she said between gasps. "Please tell me this was worth it." Caleb looked at her and nodded. "It will be. This thing might just save your brother." Back in Caleb's trailer, the air was thick with tension. Maddie sat at the kitchen table, nervously bouncing her leg as Caleb connected the dusty old laptop to a power supply. The screen flickered once, twice, then booted up. "Please, please still be here," Maddie whispered, watching the cursor move across the screen. Caleb opened the file explorer. "We'll check for videos first." They scrolled through folders labeled with innocent names like church bake sale and summer recipes. But inside one, marked MVP, were a string of video files named with numbers. Dates, maybe. Caleb opened the most recent one. There she was, Maddie, standing in a dirty basement room flanked by her parents. Her mother's voice rang out. "Gentlemen, this is a once-in-a-lifetime offer. Young, healthy, obedient. Starting bid at $2,500. Maddie looked down, her face pale. Caleb paused the video. "This is more than proof. This is a criminal case waiting to happen." They kept searching and found more videos. Different girls, different rooms. Maddie clutched the table edge. "This wasn't just me," she murmured. "They've been doing this for years." Caleb's jaw clenched. "Human trafficking, in this town. Your parents are running a ring." Maddie's eyes welled with tears, but she wiped them away. "We have to take this to the feds. Forget the local police." Caleb nodded. "I know a guy in Birmingham, FBI field agent. We served together overseas. He'll listen." Just as they started copying the files to a flash drive, a sudden knock at the trailer door made both of them jump. 3 hard pounds, then silence. Caleb motioned for Maddie to stay back. He grabbed his shotgun from the coat closet and approached the door quietly. Another knock. "Mr. Monroe," came a voice. "This is Sheriff Gregson. We need to speak with you." Maddie's face drained of color. "He's one of them. He's friends with my dad." Caleb didn't open the door. "What's this about, Sheriff?" "You're harboring a minor against her family's wishes. We got a report of a break-in and attempted assault." "That's funny," Caleb said coolly, "because I've got video proof of the exact opposite." There was a pause. "Look, let's not make this messy, Caleb. Just hand over the girl and we can sort the rest out later." "She's an adult, and this conversation's being recorded," Caleb said, holding his phone near the door. "You and I both know what they're doing is illegal." A low growl came from the sheriff's throat. "This isn't over, Monroe." They heard the crunch of gravel as the cruiser pulled away. Inside, Maddie trembled. "He's in on it. That means no one here is safe." Caleb stared at the flash drive in his hand. "We don't stop now. We take this to the FBI tonight." Maddie took a deep breath, nodded, and zipped the drive into her coat pocket. "Let's burn it all down." Caleb's truck barreled down Highway 82 under the cloak of night, headlights cutting through the mist. Maddie sat in the passenger seat, gripping the flash drive like it was made of glass. Every bump in the road made her flinch. Every car behind them felt like a tail. "Are we being followed?" she asked, glancing nervously in the side mirror. "Not yet," Caleb replied, eyes locked on the road. "But we're not taking the direct route just in case." He made a sharp turn off the main highway onto a narrow back road that wound through empty farmland. It added an hour to the trip, but safety was worth the delay. Caleb didn't trust anyone in Jasper anymore, not with what they knew. "Tell me about your friend," Maddie asked, needing to talk to keep the fear at bay. "Daniel Marsh, retired Marine, works with the FBI out of Birmingham now. He's one of the few people I'd bet my life on." As the sun peeked over the horizon, they finally reached the outskirts of the city. The downtown skyline shimmered in the distance. Caleb pulled into a diner parking lot and took out a prepaid phone. "Stay in the truck, lock the doors," he said. Maddie nodded and watched as Caleb made the call. 10 minutes later, a black SUV pulled into the lot. Out stepped a tall man in a dark jacket, salt and pepper buzz cut, and mirrored sunglasses. Daniel Marsh. Caleb and Daniel embraced like brothers. "Long time," Daniel said. "Your call shook me." Caleb handed him the flash drive. "You're not going to believe what's on here. This girl, Maddie, her parents are selling girls out of Jasper, including her." Daniel's expression darkened. "You're serious?" "I've seen the videos. Maddie's not the only one. Her parents are running a trafficking ring, and the sheriff is covering for them." Daniel's eyes narrowed. "We'll need to act fast. If they know she's gone, they'll start destroying evidence." Back inside the SUV, Daniel brought Maddie to the Birmingham field office, where 2 agents immediately took her into a private interview room. Caleb watched through the glass, his fists clenched. After an hour, Daniel returned. "She's solid. Everything checks out. Those videos are enough to launch an operation. We're issuing warrants now." Caleb exhaled for the first time in hours. "And her little brother? He's still in that house." Daniel nodded grimly. "We'll get him out. He's our priority now." Just then, another agent burst in. "We've got a problem. Someone from Jasper's office just tipped off the Pritchards. They're on the move." Daniel swore under his breath. "They're trying to vanish." Maddie appeared behind him, pale but resolute. "Then we have to stop them. I know where they'd go. My uncle has a cabin near the state line. They always talked about hiding out there." Caleb and Daniel locked eyes. "Let's go," Daniel said. "We'll take 2 teams. And Maddie, you just saved a lot of girls. But now we need to save your brother." The convoy of black SUVs moved silently through the morning fog, weaving through pine trees and gravel roads as they neared the Pritchard family's remote cabin near the Alabama-Tennessee border. Inside one of the vehicles, Maddie sat between Caleb and Agent Daniel Marsh, her hands clenched in her lap. "They'll be armed," she warned, "and they'll do anything to keep my brother." Daniel gave her a firm nod. "That's why we're going in hard and fast. You don't need to worry, we'll bring him out safely." They arrived at the clearing, and the cabin came into view, small, gray, and surrounded by old junk cars and rusted lawn equipment. A dog barked in the distance, but otherwise, it was quiet. Too quiet. Daniel signaled to his team. 4 agents flanked the sides of the house, while 2 moved to the back. Caleb kept Maddie back behind a tree, though she strained to see. Then, crack! A gunshot rang out from inside. "Move! Move!" Daniel shouted. Agents stormed the cabin, shouting commands. Another shot fired, this time followed by a scream. Maddie's heart nearly stopped. Minutes felt like hours until finally, Daniel emerged from the front door holding a boy in his arms. "Travis?" Maddie choked out. The boy looked up, his face bruised but alive. "Maddie?" She ran to him, and they embraced so tightly it was hard to tell where one ended and the other began. Caleb stood behind them, his chest swelling with emotion. Inside the cabin, both of Maddie's parents were taken into custody. Her mother wept as she was dragged out, but her father stared straight ahead, jaw clenched with a kind of furious shame. "You'll never win," George spat at Caleb as he was shoved into the back of the SUV. But Caleb didn't reply. He just turned toward Maddie and Travis, and for the first time in days, he smiled. Weeks later, the town of Jasper was in uproar. News of the trafficking ring shocked the whole community. Several local officials, including the sheriff, were indicted. Dozens of young women were rescued thanks to the files on Maddie's parents' laptop. Maddie and Travis stayed with Caleb in his trailer for a while, but something better was on the horizon. Caleb had filed to become Travis's legal guardian and to adopt Maddie. "It doesn't matter how we got here," he told the judge during the hearing. "What matters is we're a family now, and I'm not letting them go." Tears filled Maddie's eyes as the judge smiled and banged the gavel. "You're now officially Caleb Monroe, Maddie Monroe, and Travis Monroe." After the hearing, they stepped out into the sunshine, arms wrapped around one another. A new home followed. Caleb sold his trailer and bought a fixer-upper house on the edge of town, surrounded by woods and wildflowers. Maddie went back to school, this time to study criminal justice. She vowed to use her story to help other girls who felt voiceless. Travis, now safe and surrounded by love, finally slept through the night again. And Caleb, once a broken widower, found his purpose again in the family he never expected, but would never give up. Love had found them in the darkest place, and this time it was here to stay. From a lonely widower in a small town to the unexpected father of two brave souls, Caleb Monroe's story proves that love, courage, and doing what's right can break even the darkest chains. Maddie and Travis found not just safety, but family, and a future filled with hope. If this story moved you, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to our channel. Every click helps us share more real-life tales of strength, redemption, and second chances. Thanks for watching.